Hey guys, how's it going today? I had a poll, and if I remember correctly, let me double check here, just in case it's changed. Otherwise, I might have to alter this entire video right on the spot. Let's find out. Let's find out what you guys decided. All right, it looks like fictional characters for the win. Just barely. Right behind retrospective regrets. This was on a poll I had put on the Discord. So let's go with it. So, fictional characters that I relate to and that I connect to in some respect, which is, usually not the case for us schizoids. We can't really connect to a lot of people or, emotional type narratives and characters as well as other people may. But there's certain characters that I have managed to latch onto significantly over the years. Oh, also, before any of that, if you're listening to this for the first time, cool. If you like whatever it is I'm doing right now, because half the time I'm not sure what it is, um, sub, like, comment. Comments are super important. Do whatever. I don't care. Just interact with it in some way, because then it helps the channel grow. Otherwise, it's just going to remain kind of stagnant. I also have a Discord, so if you're a Zoid or if you're an avoidant or something, avoid. Join up on the Discord. There's plenty of people. Well, not plenty, but there's enough people to kind of communicate with back and forth about various things that might interest you or your own, dilemmas. So there might be some relatability there that you can tap into. But please, like, I noticed on my analytics that there's a lot of people that seem to listen and stick around, but don't sub. Maybe it's because they don't have a YouTube account. I don't know. Make a YouTube account or something. Because I'd like to actually know the number of people watching. Because it doesn't quite match up with the number of subs sometimes. Like, it's random. Like, there's times when I don't get a lot of views, but the sub count doesn't match up with it. But then there's other times where it's like way more views than sub count. I don't understand this platform sometimes. But please sub, please like, whatever. God, I hate even saying it. Also, on the Discord, I added a Venmo. I gotta put it on the about me on YouTube. It's annoying. I hate shilling, but over time, I gotta figure out some kind of way to make some bucks, I guess, so that I can convince other people that this is worthwhile doing, so that they don't think I'm just doing this as like a hobby. Um, it is right now, obviously, but this feels like a lot more to me, for some fucking reason. It feels like something I could keep doing. I like talking. I like talking to not people, but I like talking to sentient beings able to produce conversation that I find interesting. How about that? Because people implies like kind of a social thing, which is not what I'm interested in. Okay, enough rambling. Time for the actual ramble. Okay, so characters, fictional characters that I, as a schizoid, relate to. This is going to kind of expose me as a weeb, unfortunately, but I think that's okay. I don't mind. Make sure it's recording. Yeah, it is. I don't mind that it's going to expose me as a weeb, but whatever. Who cares? I bet a lot of you are weebs too. Uh, but that's just me. I'm also a comic book fan and other things. But when it comes to literature, I do have some characters that are kind of relatable, but not as deeply because I'm more into short stories than novels. Um, so I mean, generally speaking, not always the case, obviously. But so I don't know. I haven't been able to find too many literary characters that I found really I can connect to in any real way. But whatever. Okay, let's start with the easy one. Um, this is in no order of like favorite to least favorite or anything. I'm just kind of randomly think about them. So you guys are pretty familiar with this guy, right? Guts, yeah, Berserk. If you're not, you should be. If you're only familiar with the anime adaptations, the movies are good, especially the third one. The original show from the '90s, is actually very good. The manga is far superior in every way to all those, and the 2016 so-called anime was a was a travesty, visually speaking. They tried to capture the feel of it, but anyway, that's not the point. Why Guts? Why do I connect to Guts? I mean, obviously, Guts himself is no schizoid. He's an emotional being. He connects to people, disconnects, and such. But he also has a tendency to disconnect to people in emotional ways, and he connects to people in like through respect and ideas of self discipline and things like that. And over time, as a character progresses, obviously, a lot of those things change. But um, what I find the most relatable is the inability to stop. Um, the, the as I always like to say, pushing through the mud and the blood. Like you keep going, regardless of how difficult life becomes, how pointless it all seems, how pessimistic and cynical the world makes you, and jaded. You keep fighting, with torn limbs and blood-covered eyes, with loss and hatred fueling you, and then finding the discipline to actually control your rage against those who would take everything away from you. And I relate to that. I relate to that, and I relate to the idea that you just can't stop moving, regardless of the horrors you face and the pain you suffer. Because the moment you stop moving is the moment you're dead, and the moment you lose everything. And you don't want to lose everything because there's certain things that are worth keeping. And always think, too, that there are things you probably haven't even attained yet. And if you haven't attained them, then what are you truly losing? You don't know. You don't know how much you're losing if you give up, if you don't keep pushing forward in some respect. And he's a human man. He's a man that initially, before he achieved certain levels of certain power levels via this wonderful piece of equipment right here, and other pieces of equipment and ability he's gained over the years. He was just a man when he first fought demons. He was just a man. When he confronted the horrors of hell itself, he was just a man. Through and through, he felt the most pain and suffering a human being can endure. The amount of loss alone that he endures would be insurmountable to most people. And yes, I get he's a fictional character, but there's people who do this. There's people who face horrible, horrible, insurmountable pain and still trudge forward. Loss that can't even be measured. So, and I've suffered quite a bit of loss and pain in my own ways. But yet I still push. And I don't know why. And sometimes Guts didn't know why. He didn't really understand or comprehend why it is he kept moving forward. So he had a lot of moments of doubt. And that's what the rage represents. Because in my moments of doubt, it doesn't take the form of, apathetic sadness. It takes the form of unbridled anger and fury. Because I know it's weird to say, but I'm a schizoid with a lot of internal rage. And I find that interesting. And that's another concept, another kind of, I guess, trope or narrative or whatever that I find fascinating is righteous fury. The idea of, smashing, destroying, decimating obliterating um, those who would cause not just you pain, but try to take away or destroy the things that you live for, the things that you love. To have the arrogance to believe they could remove these things from you, take this from you. That alone is enough to incite, to ignite a righteous fury inside of you. And I love Guts for it, because through and through, he doesn't always make the best decisions, but his fury is righteous in many regards. But he tames it to the best of his ability. He tries. He tries to control what he can of it, even when faced with abominable things that have zero empathy or understanding for what it is that he's enduring. So, I love that. I love that about the character. And the amount of stoicism that it occasionally requires in order to regain control of his human nature. As you can see, it's not easy. Okay, so enough about Guts. Another character I find very, very interesting, and this one far more relatable on a schizoid level, probably not just so much on the rage, because with the Guts, it's more of just my anger that I connect to, because he's not very he's not very aloof. I mean, he's aloof, but he's an emotional character for sure. Um, it would be Vampire Hunter D. I read the novels. I'm more interested in the novels than any of the manga or anime. I like them quite a bit. I like the original film quite a bit. I like the later films, and I do like the manga adaptations um, quite a bit as well. But it's the novels that I'm far more interested in. If you haven't read them, the translations are sometimes a little dodgy because they are Japanese novels. Amano's been writing them since like the 80s. His writing and the stories themselves have improved significantly, in my opinion. He's a guy he was like a Japanese guy who grew up on American and, well, all over the world, but a lot of American horror, pop culture stuff. And he kind of combined many sort of, what's the word for it? There's a word for it. Pulp sort of elements. Stuff like westerns, horror, mystery, stuff like that. A lot of pulp stuff. He combined it into science fiction that's really out there, and I highly appreciate. If you're not familiar with D, basically it takes place in a universe, or on a world, on Earth, sort of, many, 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 many years in the future. Not necessarily our Earth, but in which vampires have decimated the land, decimated everything. They used to basically run sort of a culture of like a serfdom with the humans. And because they're vampires, what's interesting is that within the novels, there isn't as much of an emphasis on the magical elements of the vampire. A lot of the things that the vampires created, a lot of the abominations, are a mixture of high unethical science and the occult. So I find it interesting, but a lot of it is experimentation that these creatures did over the course of millennia out of sheer boredom. And eventually they had a thermonuclear war of some kind that destroyed everything, save a few human colonies and a few isolated aristocrats, as they're often referred to. And a lot of these lords no longer properly take care or, rule over their serfdoms of humans. Um, they've lost interest in their own lives. They've lost interest in any sense of ethics or morality. They've become, I mean, we're dealing with sometimes suicidal vampires, so they just live too long. And what I love about D, and the reason I find D so relatable, is that he is very stoic. Um, he doesn't seem to be able to connect on a human level to the characters he's even saving and protecting. Um, Partially because he's only half human, so there's that particular issue. He is half human, half vampire, Dampiel as they call them. But what makes it interesting is that his ancestry is of the highest order. So if he were to have wanted to, he could have easily overtaken or claimed his rightful throne. Um, but he doesn't want any of this. He wants to go across the land and kill every noble that he can and end their lives so that the human race or the earth itself could transition past the monstrosities and um, mutations and various things that the vampire kind had created. So he has a deep hatred for his own kind, but at the same time, it's not a racial hatred because there are instances in which he spares or does not end another vampire's life because they perhaps have similar ethics or similar ideas and concepts behind their own actions that he agrees with, um, that aren't destructive or filled with spite and things like that. And another thing I find relatable about him is that he does have a lot of rage. It's just controlled, very controlled, and requires a significant amount of physical trauma or psychological trauma to ignite it. But when it does, he's capable of tapping into his father's blood. And when he does that, well, things get gnarly. And things get really violent. But he manages to, again, control it. But most of the time, I'd say 95%, 98% of the time, he's perfectly calm at any given moment. He is occasionally tempted to drink blood, but he controls it. Um, but that's just in his blood. It can't be helped. But nonetheless, what I find interesting too about the narrative is that, like I said, it combines Western science fiction and horror. So you can get anything. Anything comes out of this place. You got cowboys fighting, eldritch creatures with robots and like whatever your fucking imagination could come up with. This guy's come up with some semblance of it. And a lot of the criticisms of D is that he's OP as fuck. And he is OP. He is fucking OP. But that's what makes him even more interesting to me, is that he's really fucking powerful. But yet, he seeks no power for himself. He seeks no glory, no status, nothing. Only his mission. And the money he makes is only to further that mission. He doesn't have any significant hobbies or interests. He's very single-minded, and I can understand that. But at the same time, he has these like ethical parameters and a sense of principles that he follows, and he refuses to fuck with. Something I always respect. It's I love characters that keep to principles and ethics in the face of a irrelevant, no, a absurd and geez, what's the word I'm looking for? Indifferent universe or world that they live in. They don't give a fuck. So I find that interesting. The art's beautiful, by the way. Yoshitaka Amano, if you don't already know him, a lot of weebs do. better known for his art, Final Fantasy art from the previous, like the older games and stuff. But he does all the cover art and internal illustrations in each novel, and there's quite a few of them. There's like a fuck ton of them. But some are better than others. But I don't care. I enjoy just seeing D interact with human and vampire alike. And that's what's interesting too, is that he's beautiful, right? He has this beauty that captivates both men and women, regardless of their preferences. It's just sheer beauty, right? And again, he doesn't care about it. He's uninterested in it. He's not seeking intimacy, not seeking a partner. He's not seeking any of these things. Other people fall in love with him, but he's seen too much and experienced too much to know that it serves no purpose for him to even attempt the idea of finding something as distant and foreign as love, as alien. But anyway, that's D. Next, this one's a little more recent. Man, I don't know if I'll get flack for this one. Goblin Hunter or Slayer. Shit, it's Hunter. What the fuck? I'm thinking Hunter x Hunter, right? Goblin Slayer. All right, man. I don't know how familiar you guys are with this. This gentleman right here is a fucking king. And yeah, a lot of people like him, yeah, because he's a badass. He kills goblins, whatever. Fucking, that's not why I like him. The reason I like him is because I think he is honestly the most schizoid fucking character I've ever seen in anything. Especially in the weeb world. The guy has nothing like going on emotionally. I would say 99% of the show. He travels. Well, see, his whole purpose is to kill goblins, and the reason he killed goblins is because of some really fucked traumatic shit that has kind of inserted this need to destroy all goblin life because of the suffering and pain and rape that they often cause. Yes, the show has a lot of the big R in it. Well, not a lot, but a lot of implication. The first episode actually has the events that made it controversial, but most of the show doesn't focus on that. And even though the first episode is just play some heavy metal and like he's killing goblins, and it's like fucking Doomslayer type shit. That's not why I like the show at all. The reason I enjoy it, I actually enjoy the calm moments when he's not even fighting, just as much, if not more, than the action-packed moments, because he travels with her initially. He saves her life in the first episode, and he saves other people's lives in the process of killing goblins, right? Because people underestimate goblins and the horrors that they cause. And he doesn't seek power. He doesn't seek status. He's indifferent to all of that. He's indifferent to relationships. He's indifferent to a ton of shit. But again, ethics, ethical framework, moral sort of principles that he has, that he sets forward for himself, that he lives by. Maybe he doesn't even understand why he lives by them, but he does. And when he meets her, she over time attempts to connect to him, which is like near damn impossible, because you can't get through to him, just like you can't get through that helmet. In fact, it's good, even in the manga, it's a good long while before you ever even get to gander his face, in the story. But he then makes other friends, quote unquote, but they're more just like people that tag along for mission reasons, quest reasons. And again, he doesn't connect to them. He doesn't attempt to. They attempt to connect to him. And over time, because they kind of give him the space he needs, they don't try to be pushy on him about stuff. They ask him questions. He gives them like really flat affect. That's another thing. He's kind of said the flattest fucking affect. He never, he seems almost unable to make any kind of decision outside of how to properly kill goblins. He's never experienced it seems, any kind of real pleasure. He there's like a bunch of stuff he experiences through his travels with them that like would be commonplace for a lot of people, but to him are just, new. Everything's new because he never saw the purpose in ever actually partaking in much. And again, the same theme of fury. It's in there. There's a lot of hatred in there, but it's all covered by this just stoic, um, just detached nature that, again, probably came from that trauma. Um, but I just love to see him interact with people and develop his social skills, because that's essentially what you're watching. You're watching him develop little by very little his social skills. And I'm not talking like, oh, he's a totally different person by the end of the season. Fuck no. No. He's barely made any progress by the end of the first season. Any progress. There was also a movie, which you can skip the first half because it's just a recap of the show. The movie was pretty decent. It was fun. But again, you just get glimpses into who or what he is. But that's it. He's just as armored up as he is. His emotional fucking armor is impenetrable. So, and he doesn't get angry either when people pry. He just doesn't have answers for them, which is what I find even more interesting. He doesn't have anything to tell them because he hasn't developed anything. And I find that so interesting. It's super fucking relatable because he's barely learning. He's learning how to be a person. That not how to be a person, but how to be a person that can connect to others in some respect. And people thank him for things, and he's indifferent to praise. He's indifferent to criticism. Yeah, it's a pretty violent show, but it's good shit. So here's an attempt to try to get him to do something, but even hot, whatever you want to call it, waifu, elf waifu here, can't get in. There's nothing. There's nothing. It's just not happening. And I love that, man. I love that because I've seen a lot of animes where you have the aloof characters that seem to not give a shit, but then like over the course of like 3 or 4 episodes, you see that they're actually very loving or this or that. That's not happening with Goblin Slayer. He's just trucking along, man, and he's developing like some, like he's slowly kind of learning how to express himself. That's what's cool, is that it's not even so much that he's just like, oh, I'm gonna put off this tough and uncaring demeanor in order to keep people away because they always die when they're around me. It's not like that, because that's a trope. We've seen it. We all love it. No, this guy legitimately can't like feel shit like very well, and he legitimately can't express it, and he's fucking schizoid, man. Like, I can't think of a goddamn character that's more schizoid than the Goblin Slayer. I don't even think you ever find out his fucking name. I don't know. I haven't kept up with the latest manga. Did they give his name? I don't fucking remember. Because it's also been previous to that is a light novel too. So it's a series of light novels. So if you're not a weeb, you're not into manga or anime, read the novels. Same thing with D. If you're not into fucking manga, anime shit, read the novels. There's a lot of really cool light novels that are very fun and interesting, kind of that pulp style that you can enjoy. And if you're not into anime, like there's a lot of cool, like if somebody tells you there's this cool anime, a lot of the times there'll be a light novels associated to it. You might be able to enjoy that more if that's more your cup of tea. So, if you like sword and sorcery type shit, go for it. Next. Oh, man. So here we're going to go into the more personal, I guess. There we go. Oh, I think I spelled that wrong. Yeah, I did. Okay, so Zura's Wrath. Way back in the day, Xbox 360, but also PC and stuff. I love this fucking game. I love this fucking character. I love this fucking game. And again, for the same reasons, as you can see, hence the title. Pure, unbridled rage and hatred for those who would want to take away everything from him. And what I love about it the most, and why I find it so relatable, is that he's willing to... It's his motivational drive. It's for his daughter. The love of his daughter. And I'm a dad. A schizoid dad that loves his two daughters. And he will kill, destroy, obliterate anything in his path when it comes to his daughter. He doesn't care if you're a god, if you're some cosmic being, if you're the emperor. He doesn't give a fuck what you are. If you're between him and his daughter, you're fucked. And even when faced with just unstoppable power, what seemingly would be, he doesn't care. I mean, spoiler alert, but he literally fights like the being of creation itself by the end of the game. And it doesn't stop him. And he's fueled by nothing but righteous fury. And man, I can't help but love it. It's a perverse, maybe, infatuation I have with rage. But my God, it's so fucking awesome. And I would highly recommend it because the game itself is okay. I'm not gonna say the game, like the gameplay is like super good or anything. It's okay, it's cool, but it's the narrative. It's like you're playing. It's like playing a movie. It's not really a game. Sometimes like it's like playing a fucking movie, and it's such a good fucking movie. It's even split up into chapters. You can even rewatch cinematics and shit. Here, let me see if I can bring something up. There. See what we can just bring up here. Oh, it is S. I was thinking of something else. Stupid. Let's see what we can find here real quick. Ah, here. This is like the first like boss fight. Jesus Christ. Sorry for the ear rape. God damn. Okay, let's lower that shit. I don't know how much there we go. Let's lower that a little bit so that we don't kill everyone. So anyways, fighting these dudes. He's fighting this one particular dude, right? Yeah, this guy can tough shit, whatever. I recommend that. So it's his arrogant correctness, actually.
Pitiful.
That, is saying he's pitiful, you're weak, because, he wasn't the strongest of the bunch. And now, well, I mean, he was the strongest before, but, like, a certain amount of time has gone by since he, quote-unquote, died. And so they're all like fucking unstoppably powerful now. And they're basically super, super full of themselves and arrogant at this point. They're gods. So you fight this guy. Doesn't matter. And he just becomes this impossibly big. Well, at first he becomes a really big motherfucker.
Mithra!
Right? And that doesn't stop.
Have to make me.
Yeah, they're like episodic. All of this. It's not for himself. It's not as much for his wife. Well, initially, that's part of it. Is when his the shift that occurs and regarding his rage. Anyway, so he beats this guy up a bit. Like I said, this is the button. I can't think of too many many games or anything that really captured rage and fury as well as. You don't respect this. Versus Godzilla, fucking this guy. Blah, blah, flashback. Sacrifices of body, his own soul, bastards, his own being. He goes boom. But, you know, his body is just fucked at that point.
Here, Asura.
You know, he's just fucking wrecked. I love this right here. I love this. So, you know, that's his arm, right? Still raising the heavens, right? That's great. He's fucking severed. His body destroyed. But he succeeded in his goal. His temporary goal of fucking up that piece of shit. I love it. But anyway, that's it.
Why are you?
Shit. I would highly suggest playing through it on the PC on the highest settings if you can, obviously, because the quality is just so much better. Just for the story. Um, Even if you just like anger, righteous fury, watch it. I found it. I was able to kind of connect to it emotionally when I played it because of the daughter aspect of it. I was just like cheering this guy on the entire time I was playing. I'm like, yes, just fuck everything up. Fuck everything up. Get your daughter back. It's pretty awesome. It's part of those internal fantasies I think we created. And a lot of my internal fantasies are vengeance based or kind of anger based. It's I don't know. I know it's not healthy, but um, nonetheless, I find things like that very satisfying, and the fights just get more and more ludicrous from there. I would say, in some respects, like and cosmically, they just get more ludicrous. How long have I been going now? I forget. I lose track of time. All right, we'll go a little bit more. Um, what else? Who else? I had another character in mind. Concept that I can't really think of right now. I think I think that's all I can think of at the moment. Nah, there's got to be somebody. I have so many interests, so many fucking hobbies. Oh, well, here's another one. Okay, for different reasons. Um, yeah, for entirely different reasons, I would say. Um, you guys know the Hound, right? Clegane. Everyone, a lot of people watched Game of Thrones and shit like that. If you've read the books, even better. Uh, but you know, it's not like the best shit. Honestly, I don't think it's like as good as people try to talk about it. Um, the books as well as the show. The show is ending. Obviously, we already know how that went, but that's a different debate. But what I like to talk about when it comes to the series, regardless of which variation, I've even played the tabletop RPG. It's pretty cool stuff. Well, I didn't play it, but I have the books, and I've been wanting to play it, but uh, eh. I mean, I can't really exactly find a lot of people to play stuff like that, especially with the little bit of time I have. But yeah, there's a pretty cool, interesting Fire and Ice tabletop. Um, that it's cool because it's like a low, it's like a low fantasy kind of no magic sort of world, which is awesome. But the Hound, Sandor, I find him insanely relatable. Not because of obviously his, uh, um, he's still an emotional character. Obviously, he's not like very stoic or aloof or anything in any kind of schizoid sense. But it's the fact that he's endured again just horrific events in his life. He's partaken and participated and viewed, and he's just seen the worst humanity has to offer. The fucking worst humanity has to offer. And nonetheless, even before he was, given this future vision, it's kind of all bordering on religious vision. Um, Even then, he still managed to still do certain things correctly, or he not correctly, but he still had a certain set of ethics that he tried his best to kind of follow. There's things that he wouldn't do. There's things that he just wouldn't do. Um, and there's things that if he has the opportunity to not stand by and watch, he won't. Regardless of what he says, regardless of how much he says he doesn't care or whatever. That's his actions prove otherwise. And the character develops over time, obviously, but he's got this very cynical, not the kind of optimistic nihilism I got going, but the cynical, just jaded, uncaring, apathetic nihilism about the world around him. But he keeps moving, keeps going, and even after He sees these supernatural things that, you know, were thought to not even exist anymore. He's unchanged for the most part as far as what motivates him. He still does things because of his own set of principles, because he thinks this is the correct thing to do, because he thinks there is something worth protecting in his own way. Um, Uncaring about anybody else's ideals, laughing at anyone else's philosophical preaching. Doesn't give a shit about status, doesn't give a shit about power, doesn't give a shit about a lot of fucking things. Um, of course, it's relatable to me. And he nonetheless just keeps moving forward toward his, you know, ultimate goal. What it will actually be, if the book is ever released, we will know. But, you know, according to the TV, it's just a big fucking WWE wrestling match, but whatever. That's a different story. Um, every character's arc, I think, got destroyed in the show by the end, including partially Sandor's, not completely, but in some respects, yeah. But in any case, yeah, I would say, if we're talking IRL and just American fiction, I find him incredibly relatable. That's not to say that I don't have. There's not a lot of characters that I like. There's not to say there's not a lot of characters that I enjoy, or, you know, in some respect or another, kind of can relate to in some sense, to a specific thought or action or whatever you want to call it. There's plenty. There's plenty. But I just kind of wanted to name some of the ones that kind of run straight to the top of my head for you today. So I hope this wasn't entirely boring or stupid, because if you ask me, it is. But tell me, I'd actually like to know, if you're still listening, I'd like to know more about some of the characters you guys relate to. Just leave it in the comments, or go to the Discord or whatever. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me why you relate to those characters. What aspect of them? Because, you know, obviously there's not a lot of Schizoid characters that you can kind of connect to. So tell me characters that you feel are maybe like yourself, like are Schizoid in some respect because of the way they're written. Maybe it wasn't the intention. Again, I'm wondering. Honestly, I'm really wondering if the creator of Goblin Slayer intended to create a Schizoid character, because I can't I can't think of a single one that's more just Schizoid, at least in the anime manga world, than fucking Goblin Slayer. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. And again, if you haven't subscribed, do so. Make a fucking YouTube account. Whatever, dude. Just fucking do it. And I'll probably put in the about me, but like I said, I got a Venmo account. I don't know if anybody's gonna do anything with it. Eventually, I gotta get a PayPal type shit and Patreon. You know how it is, guys. Like, I don't have a lot of this shit, man. I didn't care about it. Shit, I didn't even have like any social media up until I started doing this shit. But as much as it pains me to partake and ask for things and, you know, interact in certain respects, I have to keep pushing forward, because this is important to myself, and it seems to be important to people that I relate to, and I guess that makes it important to me too, I guess. All right, I'm just glad I got to do something that was a little less somber and a little more just kind of fun, at least for me. All right, guys, have yourselves whatever fucking day you want to have.